Hi guys, so in our last videos we focused on the cost of living in Indonesia. Today we will see how much the total cost will be per month, and we will be adding some additional costs that we know we will need once we live in Indonesia.
So watch till the very end where we will show you our expected cost for living in Indonesia per month.
So far in the previous videos, which you can go to once the pop-up appears on top of the screen, we calculated the cost of living in Indonesia for the fixed monthly costs, which are housing, utilities and transportation, groceries and eating out, health insurance and school tuition fees.
These costs are based on what we expect to need per month for a family of 3. We hope that this will help you to get an idea of how much you will need if you plan to move to Indonesia.
If you're like us and you aim to start an online business, making it possible to live wherever you want, then we have added in the description box below a valuable link that has helped us tremendously on our journey to creating an online business.
It shows you step by step what you need to do and how to start. So have a look in the description box below to see if this is something for you too.
So, coming back to the costs. The total of our costs that we have calculated up till now are 1,160 for fixed cost, 550 for groceries and eating out, 550 for health insurance, 600 for schooling. This alone is already a total of $2,860 for the 3 of us per month.
We also did a video on which visa you will need when moving to Indonesia. If you want to watch it, then check on the link appearing now. In our case, we concluded that we would need a foreign investment visa, C314 for both of us, and a joining family, C317 for our son. We will do this through an agency to make sure we don't make any mistakes.
Every agency has a different rate, but we calculated for the C314 visa 25 million rupiah, which is around $1,700 per person. So this will be for the first 2 years. A renewal after 2 years will be 20 million rupiah, which is around $1,400 per person. As for our son, we will apply for the dependent visa, which is 11 million rupiah. So that's around $730 for 1 year.
Remember, there are other types of visas as well, but this visa permits you to stay long-term in Indonesia. However, you are not allowed to physically work there. So if you have an online business, then that is fine, but you cannot use any material which you created in Indonesia for your business, such as being an online business consultant on setting up a business in Indonesia, for example.
You have to be careful. I recently heard that a photographer was deported because he had a foreign investor C314 visa in Indonesia. And he was the one taking the pictures for his business. So which isn't allowed. That's how strict immigration in Indonesia is right now. Anyway, so the initial total cost for the visa will be $4,130. Of course, you need to have this money up front, so you cannot include this in your monthly cost. But just to get an idea, the monthly cost of living in Indonesia, let's calculate the cost of our 2-year visa per month. This will be 42 US per month and 61 for our son. So there will be $203 for our long-term resident visa for Indonesia.
Other costs to consider are help in and around the house. A cleaner is very common in Indonesia. The cost of a cleaner, driver or gardener, whatever you need, depends on your location. As expected, in Jakarta or Bali, you will pay more than in other areas. If you would go for a full-time helper who cooks, cleans and does the laundry, then you can expect to pay around $200 to $250 a month in Bali and Jakarta. So now we have come to a total of around $3,300 a month.
Yeah, But we will of course encounter other costs when living in Indonesia. Costs that you cannot budget for each month, but you might want to put some money aside. For example, one of them is traveling. Once we're living in Indonesia, we hope to travel throughout Asia. Traveling is a very important part of our life and we plan to continue doing so once we live in Indonesia. Anyways, luckily the flights within Indonesia are not extremely expensive, but we need to set aside a couple of hundred a month for our weekend trips within Indonesia alone and longer holidays outside the country.
Of course, it is a personal choice to set a budget for a holiday or not. We just wanted to make you aware that besides the obvious costs, you should think about other things as well when determining the monthly income you will need.
And while we are talking about traveling, we will also put some money aside each month for yearly visits back to the Netherlands, just to stay in contact with our family and friends. But additionally, we believe it's also important to have money on the side for emergency trips back home.
Yes, that's so true. If something happens with family and friends, it is always good to know that you can fly back and be there whenever necessary.
Other costs are clothing. From our own experience, we know that we cannot shop everywhere in Indonesia because clothing, often it's on the small size. Same for shoes. So we have to go to those Western chains such as Zara, H&M, for instance, right?
Yeah, and then you have the haircuts and beauty products as well. Getting a haircut in Indonesia can be cheaper than back home, such as in the Netherlands.
Oh, yes.
Unless you go to an upscale salon. If you need a bit more maintenance and beauty treatments, then don't be surprised if you'll be needing $80 a month or more in Indonesia. And that's the same for massages. You can go for the good ones for an average price or for the ones with more luxury and where you pay as much as back home. So both are good, of course, but it's up to you.
Yeah. And then you have the beauty care products. In the Netherlands, beauty products tend to be pretty expensive compared to other European cities. We don't know why, but that's the way it is. But luckily, we often have these deals such as 50% off or buy one, get one free, which is great for facial creams and sun lotion, for instance. But I know that this isn't the case for Indonesia. For instance, sunscreen will be around $15, right? Not that much of a difference when you compare it to the Netherlands. But if you compare it with other goods in Indonesia, you will think it's quite expensive. So make sure you budget these things as well.
Another thing you need to be aware of is purchasing things online. In Indonesia, it can be a hassle if you order something from abroad because the package can be confiscated by customs and you will need to pay a lot of money to be able to get it. So as you can imagine, it isn't that popular to order things abroad, such as from Amazon, AliExpress or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. Instead, you can do online shopping on Indonesian platforms such as Shopee and Tokopedia. So remember, if you move to Indonesia, make sure you get all the electronics and other stuff you might need in your home country. Speaking of getting stuff, I also noticed that in Indonesia you can get things for really cheap, but of course it's bad quality. Or you can get the same thing from a branch, but then they are pretty expensive. There isn't really something in between.
Yeah, true. But that said, IKEA has opened its doors in Java and Bali. But personally, we think it is a shame that they are there, since we believe that this will disadvantage the smaller local shops.
Yeah.
But that is, of course, our opinion. And we can imagine that it does make life easier for expats to get things from the IKEA.
Yeah. Other costs you should consider are perhaps courses, such as, getting your PADI license. It's for diving. Or you can go for a surf camp or art classes. Make sure you add it to your cost of living as well.
Last but not least, from our own experience, we learned that living abroad is more expensive than you would expect.
Yeah.
So while you will think that you might be living in Indonesia for less, you should always budget a bit more each month so you are sure you will have enough to live there exactly how you want.
Until now, we have calculated a total of $3,300 for our monthly cost. As for the occasional cost we just talked about, we will add another $1,000, making it a total of $4,300 a month. It might sound much, but as mentioned, we plan to travel more, especially now our son is getting a bit older.
Yeah, and as always, to be on the safe side, we will calculate a bit more. So we'll make it 5,000 US dollars for the three of us per month for Indonesia.
Yeah. I'm not sure what to say about that. You know, it's a lot compared to the cost of living in the Netherlands.
Yeah, but let's not forget, we have the yearly tickets home, backup emergency tickets, tuition fee for private schools, and visas. This all makes living in Indonesia expensive. As mentioned earlier, 5,000 US dollars per month is based on our situation. You might need far less or perhaps even more. We just wanted to share our expected cost of living in Indonesia so you know what to expect.
Yes, exactly. It's an indication that can give you an overall picture of the cost of living in Indonesia.
Well, that's it from us about the cost of living in Indonesia. We hope that you have found this video useful. If so, consider clicking the like button and subscribing to our channel.
If you have any comments, please share them below this video. We would love to hear your thoughts about the monthly cost of living in Indonesia and if you think we estimated it correctly, yes or no.
So for now, thank you very much for watching and we hope to see you again in our next videos.
Bye bye!